Support robotnation #1 comic book on the crowdfunding site Kickstarter. A 44-page sci-fi horror comic book for mature readers from New Zealand.
That's pretty cool, man. I've never had anything hardcover printed, but I collect a lot of hardcover stuff. And it reminded me, like, look, this is a hardcover, and I picked it up ages ago, right? I bought it for a convention to sell, and then I kept a couple myself. But here's the cool thing about that. I didn't realize, but that actually, this past weekend, that I realized it released this freaking, floppy. And I was like, I'll get the floppy as well.
Oh, yeah.
Now I've got a floppy to go along with that hardcover. So nice. It's really cool to see, and when you've got a collection like it did with it, it's really cool to actually have a hardcover print. It's something more magical. It's like another step, right? Like, I don't feel like anything on my computer is real until it's like this. I don't feel digital is real until it's here.
Yep.
I can touch it, smell it, open it up. And that's why that's why I'm all for physical media compared to digital media, because I think I can reach for it when like I just did, right? I can reach for it and go, show it to you. And digital is like, oh yeah, it's just on my computer. There's like no value to it, nothing. And this is like 2012. I didn't even know they put it out in 2012, right? Yet it was, New Zealand Comics had that on their site, and on their store, and I was like, yeah, I got to get that, because I didn't know they released it that way. And you see that, because these things here, right, are in libraries. This is a New Zealand comic book, and a moa is a bird that got eaten out of existence, right? A large, like a giant ostrich. And so it got eaten out of existence because that's what food was, right? That's how you got your protein and stuff. So, gentleman named James Davidson, New Zealand, writer, and one of our friends who it's in New Zealand, publisher. He published it, and I just brought it up for the convention. I said, hey, let's put, I want to present our comics here in New Zealand at our convention. So the other part of that is you've got trade paperbacks. So you got floppies, and you got trade, and that's why I like seeing what I just saw, right?
Is that the whole story?
Because it's cool to have stuff like this all set up with set up as collections. And the great thing about these is once you print them, kids in libraries and schools, right, can pick it up and stuff. And I think I love seeing comics in comic stores, but and I love seeing Kickstarter comics or Kickstarter people getting them and backing them, and I love that support. And because we just did a Incredi-Girl, that got supported, that got put out there, and of course now we've got robotnation. But the end goal should be to get it into as many hands as possible. And it's your comic. Like if you're just thinking about sit on Kickstarter all day, or just sell to my friends at the convention, that's all cool. And like I said, when I run my conventions, I make sure those comics are there to sell. But that should not be your end goal. Your end goal should be to get it into as many people's hands as possible. That's why I don't like the whole idea of, it's digital, let's keep it digital, let's sell digital. The offering's there for digital, and it should always be there, right, for people who can't afford it, who are way out in wop-wops. It's going to be here. I'm every time I get a comic from America, it's going to cost me $30 for or an Aussie, it cost me $20. I got this sent this past week when I got back from the convention from the Mac Brothers, right? When I got home, this was waiting on my door the other day. I opened it up on stream, and I said I want foil cover. So I did because I know the guys interviewed them. I said, hey, I want a foil cover, so I'll pay for that separate. But then on Kickstarter, I went on and I paid for this as well, and they paid for the postage and everything. So then, it cost me about $20 from Australia to get these two sent out. So one of the things I think a lot of people don't understand is Kickstarter isn't that expensive if you look at what's happening in the comic stores right now.
Yeah.
Incentive covers are $50, $40, $30. So you shouldn't bulk at the price when it comes to a 25 limited issue covers. So like, I mean, I'm going to, I don't know if you can open up your one to show us on your side screen, but I'm going to show you guys what we're doing, right, on our one, so you can see what's on offer. So the reason I want to show you this is because when we do our covers, we don't do like 100,000 issues, right? These are limited set covers, which means when you go in there, you're going to get like 25 for some cover or 50. That's the max, right? Because these things are limited, and the only things that aren't limited, like, is our English, Portuguese, and Spanish cover, right? So you get this in English, you get that in Spanish, and you get that in Portuguese. However, you go to these other ones, it's something like about 25 covers, limited. That's it. That will be printed. We'll probably print another 5 for ourselves, as as archives, and for for our creators and stuff, and people have done the work, and so forth. But 50 is the maximum on any of these, right? So if you back one of these covers, you're getting 1 in 50 or 1 in 25. That's the most limited. But here's the thing: if you're a shop owner, and a lot of people don't understand that, if you're a shop owner and you're running a comic shop, you have to buy 25 comics to get that 1 in 25 limited cover, variant cover, right? And that really is what destroys comic stores, as well as the crossovers that has been done that for the years, for decades right now, especially the last 15 years. Crossovers. Oh, you got to buy 25. No, you got to buy 30. Now you got to buy 100 comics to know the story, right? Or 60. And as a former comic store owner, I felt the heat of that. Like, because I had all this, and it's like, nobody wants it now because they moved on to the next crossover.
Yeah, it doesn't help them, because if you have a small comic shop, and which a lot of them are, and they sell maybe 5 or 6 of a title in a given week, they'll never get a cover, an exclusive cover, or one of these sketch covers or anything like that are offered, because they have to get 25 or 50 or 100. That 100 one, they'll never get that. And if they really want it that bad, then they got to buy all the stock that they'll never move, and then they got to.
Well, here's the thing about that, right? If you get 1 in 100 special, you have to sell. And listen, and I'm going to use the American price, right? It's because most of our food is going to be American here. And in New Zealand, as you guys know, what the price of a comic is, right? It's around about $9 to about $12 to about $14 to about $24 or $50 here in a shop.
Wow.
And I'm all for shops, and we've got a shop here. But so if you decide to if somebody comes in and goes, hey, I want that cover, and it's 1 in 100, and you got to weigh up, I now need to spend $200 American, right, to actually spend to get that one cover. And on top of that, I got to be able to have a market for that 100 comics that I've just paid $200 for, to get rid of it, right? To sell, to make back my 200, but then also to make my profit, which is basically 400, make it worthwhile to me. And I think this is why, I think there's a misunderstanding about how this works when it comes to variant covers in stores. Just same thing. You got to buy 25 at about $50, then you got to sell it. And they end up like Christian said, in the backlog. Yeah. Because that one person wanted that cover, and I've done that before. I've said, "Hey, can I get that cover?" And I've gone out of my way to pay $25 for that cover, because I understand. And this is even before I owned a comic shop, because I understood how it all worked, price wise. And so when you go to back a comic like ours and Christians on our Kickstarters, what you get is like, what is there? Like you say, okay, I'm going to buy this. You're not going to get any premium prices. You're just going to get what the price is, because we're doing because we got to pay a third to Kickstarter for this whole, for the use of the software, and the website and everything like that, and all their, the audience, because they have a huge audience. Kickstarter is the biggest audience when it comes to crowdfunding in the world, right? If you go on if you go on Facebook and you look at I love Kickstarter, I love Kickstarter backers and stuff, or private groups Kickstarter. There's about 100,000 people on some of them, 60,000, 50,000. And it's huge. And you got if you're an indie creator, right, you got to be part of those groups, because that's where your audience is. That's where people get to see it. Because if you're not out there pushing yourself, you're not going to get seen, especially if you're just starting out. And I learned that the hard lesson last year, man. I was like, I should have been like out here like for about a year going, yo, we got this comic coming up. We got this comic coming up. Right. And joining every group I could get to, and, and try and figure out what's going to work and what isn't going to work.
Please support the Robot Nation comic book on Kickstarter. A 44-page full-color sci-fi horror comic book for mature readers from New Zealand. The comic book is translated into 3 languages: English, Spanish, and Portuguese, with amazing art and variant covers from artists around the world. This first issue of Robot Nation will be released as self-contained one-shot style complete books. Each issue has 2 stories. Visit Kickstarter.com and use Robot Nation in the search bar.